Okay. So these are all the things I told in the last session regarding lambda expression. Okay. So coming to the today's session, guys, what we will do today, we are going to move on to learn about the next one more feature in Java 8 that is called optional class. Okay. So now I'm going to explain about there is a class available in Java that is called optional class. Sure. So let us have a requirement. We want to understand about there is a class available in Java. That class name is called optional class. So let's start. You know, the most popular exception in Java application. Okay. Hello. The popular exception in Java application is null pointer exception. Okay. So actually, I can tell you that there are more null checks are required. There are more null checks are required in code to avoid a null pointer exception. So now our session, I'll come back in this way. Let us have a statement. First, I'll write one statement. And from that statement, we will derive how should I write the null checks in my code? How can I write the null checks in my code so that I can avoid the null pointer exception? Okay. So from there, then we will understand about optional class. About optional class, we are going to understand about that now, right? Let's start. Okay, let's start my statement over here. See, there are two classes with me. One class is controller class. Check whether anything required for me for other classes. Look at this case. What I'm saying that I have, okay, I have one controller class. I have one controller class and also I have a class called service class. There are two classes are there. One is controller class and the next one is a service class. There are two classes are there with me. Okay, two classes are there with me. One is a controller class and second one is the service class. And in service class, there is a method like this, employee. Okay, employee return type get emp by ID. You provide the employee ID as parameter, so it returns the employee object. Okay, in service class, there is a method called get emp by ID, which takes ID as an input and it has some code and it is going to return the object. What object is going to return me? Employee object is returned whenever this method is called, it will return the object of class employee. Now this method I want to call in the controller class. Now I am going to my controller class. In the controller class, first I want to create the object of service class by myself. Service let's say serve is equal to new service. So I have created my service class object. There are two classes. One is the controller class and other one is the service class. Okay. Now understand clearly. Now employee equal to server dot get emp by id of 101. I am calling the method. Which method I am calling? Get emp by id. That's a method I am calling. Okay, this is the method get emp by id. This method I am calling here, and I want to get the employee object. And after getting the employee object, then immediately I want to display the salary of the employee by writing SOP e dot get salary. Okay. Now tell me in this code, can you guess where is the probability or where there is a chance of getting null pointer exception in this code?
Service.get employee by ID.
This is so statement.
Nice. Nice. Next, anybody? See, my question is what? In this code, can you guess where there is a probability of getting null pointer exception in this code of controller class and the service class?
When we are calling e.getSalary.
Okay. Yes. So you are right. See here, there is a probability of getting null pointer exception when I write e.getSalary. Here there is a chance of getting the exception. I'm highlighting it. I'm showing you. Suppose this method, if this ID exists in the database, it is returning the employee from database. If this ID not exists in the database, let's say it's returning null. Then tell me, if the given ID does not exist in database, what this method will do? Get employee by ID. This method get emp by ID will return the null. Suppose I'm providing 101 as an input value. Let's say, for example, 101 ID does not exist in the database. Then tell me this method will return what? Null. It returns null, right? Returns what? Now you tell me when I call get emp by ID of 101, I'm expecting employee object, but what is stored in the variable E now? Null is stored. What is stored? Null. E dot get salary. Tell me what's the value that is stored in E? What is the value stored in the E? Null. Null dot something will throw what exception? Null pointer exception. So then there is a chance of getting null pointer exception when I say E dot get salary or not? Yes. Then tell me, to avoid this null pointer exception, first I need to add one null check here. Null check means write one if condition. What's the if condition? Don't write this directly. Before writing this, write the if condition. Tell me what's the if condition? If E not equals to null. If E not equals to null, then only you print the salary. Am I right or not?
Yes.
Suppose if E is null, right? If E is null, then tell me what will happen if I write E is null. Suppose if E value is null, nothing will execute. When the salary will be printed by calling the get salary method, if the value stored in the variable E, the reference variable E is not equal to null. If it is equal to null, then salary will not be printed. Get salary method will not be called, executed. Now we are avoiding what exception here? To avoid this null pointer exception, I have added one if condition or not. So to avoid null pointer exceptions, I can write if condition. I can add this type of null checks, right? This is called what checking? Null checking. This is called null check. What is the meaning of null check? You check whether the variable, the reference variable not equals to null or not. This is called what checking? This is called what checking? Null check. Null check. So you can able to add the null checking like this, or you can add the null checks to avoid the what exception? So when I have null checks to avoid the null pointer exception, then why Java 8 has provided optional class separately? Mainly optional class is provided in Java to avoid null checks only. Are you able to follow me? So, but I can also avoid null pointer exception. I can also avoid null pointer exception by writing an if condition like this. It may be the employee, or maybe the customer, or maybe the product, or maybe the user, or maybe the item. Correct? Am I clear? So when there is a logic like this, then why again another class is provided to avoid the null pointer exceptions? That's a question mark. You got my point? This is my question. I can write if condition. In my if condition, I will write null check. Okay, if that is not equal to null, then only do the next work. Then tell me I can avoid what exception here? Null pointer exception. I can avoid it. Then why again separately one more class is provided called optional class? When I have already if conditions and I'm very familiar with if conditions, I know how to use all these operators. Maybe the logical AND operator or OR operator, equality operator, not equal to operator. These are basic operators that everybody knows. If conditions, the selection statement, that is also very common. That is very well known by every developer, right? Then why again optional class is provided to avoid the null pointer exceptions? So what I want to say that if I write more null checks, then the application, I'm killing the readability of my code. By adding more null checks, first is I can say that my code is going to look complicated code. And second thing, it is going to become, I can say, I'm killing the readability of my code. So how? I don't want to say that this is why we are going for optional class. We have to know how I am killing the readability. If I add null checks, how my code gets, or how my code is going to become complex code, and how I'm killing the reliability of the code. That also we need to understand. Am I clear? Otherwise, if I just only deliver a statement, right, that doesn't give a perfect idea in our brain, right? So just only statement, but we need to imagine it. Let's imagine this. I'll give you. So first point is very clear. What's the first point? How can I avoid null pointer exception, or how can I try to avoid null pointer exceptions at the time of developing my code, at the time of writing my code? I can write some if condition. I can add some null check in the if condition, and null check is what? If it is not equal to null, then only you can call the next operation on that. Otherwise, don't call the next operation on that. Like that, can I write one null check or not? Yes. So that I can avoid what exception, guys? I can able to avoid the null pointer exception. Clear? But what I'm saying now, if I write more null checks like that, then it will kill the readability of my code. And also it is going to make my code more complicated code. Let us see how it could be. Let's see how it could be, how it is possible. And that is what next I am going to explain. Observe here, guys. Look at this. Yes. What I'm trying to do is I will try to write some code. You guys can see this code and try to find out how it is going to become complicated. First, I have a statement in my code like this. Okay, my statement here is like this. String something str is equal to let me write something like this. Student dot understand. Student dot get continent dot get country dot get state dot get city dot get name. Okay. What is my requirement? I want to find out the city name of a student. There is a student. I would like to know the city name of the student. I want the name of the city. I want to know the city name of the student. I have a student object. In that there is a method called get continent. First it will return me in which this student belongs to which continent. Then in that continent, then this returns me which country, which state, which city, and what is the name of the city. You got my point? Tell me, do we have any chance of getting null pointer exception in this code? Do we have any chance of getting a null pointer exception in this code? If yes, can you guys tell me where is that probability is there?
If get content null means get country also null means it will get the null point exception.
For example, first place.
Yeah,
you are right. Guys, there is a chance of getting null pointer exception in this code. For sure, definitely. Where you can see that suppose I am calling get continent method. What is it? Get continent method. I am calling it. Yes. Then tell me if my student, this is a reference variable. Suppose if this reference variable has null value. If the student variable has how much? Null. When you call this method get continent on the null, what exception will be thrown? Suppose it is not null. I'm calling get continent method, which returns what? Continent object. What object? Continent object. Now tell me, on that continent object, next I'm calling which method, guys? Suppose if that continent object is null, then tell me what happens when I invoke get country on that. Again,
null pointer exception.
There is a chance, right? Let us say continent is not null, but whenever I call get country, it is returning a country object which is null. Then tell me what happens when I call get state method on that. Again, there is a chance of getting what exception? Null pointer. Suppose if the state object is null, then get city can throw what exception? Suppose if a city object is null, then tell me get name also throws what exception? Then you tell me, how do you write this code in such a way that I should not get the null point? I want to avoid null pointer exception. My primary concern is what? There is a chance of getting what exception if I write a code like this? Null pointer exception. So what is my requirement? I want to avoid the null pointer. If I want to avoid null pointer exception, then I should add what type of checkings? Null checks. To write the null checks, I should start writing what conditions? If conditions. Now, can you guys tell me how can I write these if conditions right now? For this code, I am asking, can you guys tell me how to write the if conditions?
I think student object is not null. Again, we have to check the get content object. Like that, we have to write the 5 conditions.
If, let's say first, student not equals to first condition, start the curly brace. For student not equals to null, I can call next method on that. Who is the next method on that? Get continent, which returns a continent object. Continent is equal to student dot get continent. You tell me what object I have received? Continent object. On that continent object, next I should call which method? Get country. But before calling the method, I should check, is it null or not null? That is called null check again. Then tell me what's my next if condition to check the null. If, tell me if continent not equals to null. Then tell me what's the next method I can call? Country. Country equals to continent dot get country. I have a next question again. Okay, I agree. Then tell me on country, next which method I should call? Get state. But again, to avoid the null point exception, I should have null check or not? Yes. What's my if condition again? If country not equals to null, right? This is one more null check required, guys. Tell me, what should I write over there? State. State is equal to country dot get state. What is the next step, guys?
Check state not equal to null.
If again, if condition again, if state not equals to null, then city equals to state dot get city. Again, if condition, what is that?
If city not equal to null.
City not equals to null, then you can write what? Finally, string str is equal to what? City dot get name. Again, if, for example, if str not equal to null, then I say system.out.println or return anything. SOP of str dot to uppercase. So have you understood? First, I should close. For this very inner if, I have not written any curly brace since it has only single line of code. But whereas its parent if has multiple statements, more than one. So I should close it. It's a parent if has multiple statements, I should close it. It's a parent if has again multiple statements should be closed. It's a parent if for continent that is also should be closed. And finally, I should close the store. Then tell me, I'm starting writing more null checks, write this, right? Good. This is an example. This is how practically I want to show you that. When I start writing null checks like this, there may be more number of null checks required. Okay. If I start writing these many number of null checks, now it is okay. Maybe I'm writing 4, 5 null checks or around 6 null checks. But what if my code need another 20 null checks? Like this inner. It is going to become more complicated code. Complex code to understand? Answer is absolutely yes. So that's why what is the solution that is given in Java 8 version to avoid this type of null checks and also to avoid null pointer exceptions, to reduce otherwise instead of avoid, better word is reduce. Either to reduce the null checks, or to reduce the null pointer exceptions. What is a new class provided in Java 8? Optional class. So hope you guys got. That's the reason why we got which class now? Optional class. So now our session is today. We want to know about which class only? Optional class. Optional class. First, let us see what optional class contains. Okay, right. So how optional class can provide a solution for this problem? Now, when you are writing the code, always do remember, if you want to return an object, if there is a method, that method should return object. To return an object from any method, you have to return optional class object. When you are writing code now, if there is a method to return object, if you want to create a method and that should return an object, you return optional class object from that method. Okay. What I have to do now? Create optional class object. It's a container object. Means inside that object, inside the optional class object, you can store your real object, your actual data, and then you can return the optional class object. Suppose I want to create a method. My method has to return employee class object. My method has to return what? Employee class object. What can I do now? Instead of directly returning the employee class object, first put this employee class object inside optional class object, then return the optional class object. See the difference now? I'll tell you how to put it. See the difference when I write the two statements side by side. Let me write the code here. Everybody understands. See, this is old version, means old way. What is old way you are writing? You are writing in old way a method like this. Public employee is a return type. Get emp by id of int id. Let's say, for example, here I am writing employee something e or some reference variable equal to, there is some code. The code is fetch it from the database. Fetch it from DB. Return E. This is old way. What is the what is the new way? What is the new way that I have to do is, the new way I have to do is public, return type is optional, of employee, the type parameter, get EMP by ID. Of inter ID. Look at the difference. This is new way. I just want to put new way over there. And here the new way, you get employee, fetch it from DB, fetch it from DB, then create optional class object. OPT is equal to optional dot. Later I'll tell you about all the methods, don't worry. Of nullable of E. Return OPT. See the difference, just I'm writing to compare. Look at this. Same method. But what is the old way? That in old way, how we should write the method? Public, return type is employee. But now return type is changed. Now it is recommended to use what as a return type? Optional. Use the class optional as a return type. It's a class. Okay. What should I do? Create one optional object. Guys, create one optional class object like this by calling its method and store the actual data in the optional class object and return this optional class object. So what is optional class object? It's a container object. What it contains is a value. What it contains? Value. It contains a value which is not null. Remember that. It can't store null. It can't store null. It contains non-null value. What value? Non-null value. It contains a non-null value, or otherwise it is going to be empty. Otherwise it is going to be empty. It is a container object. Who is a container object here? This optional object is what type of object? Container object. It is what type of object? Container object. It is an optional class object. What it contains? Value. Value. Which means, let me write. Just I am drawing to symbolically explain the concept. Okay. It contains value. Or it could be empty. You compare the two. This is what object? Optional object. This is also what object? Optional object. But it never contains null. Either it could be empty or this container object may contain value, data. So this is called which class object? Optional class object. This is optional class object. This is optional object which contains value, non-null value. This is optional object which is empty. Which is what? Empty. Empty. But it does not contain null. So you have to return like this whenever you are writing the logic in your project. Whenever you are writing the code, you should write the methods to return what object now? Optional object, so that we can avoid null checks and we can avoid what exception? Null pointer exceptions. Yes. So what is optional class object? Optional object is a container object and it contains or it holds a non-null value. It holds what? Non-null value. If not a value, if it is a null value, then it is going to hold empty. It is going to hold empty. It doesn't contain or doesn't hold the null. It doesn't store null inside. It doesn't store null inside. So this is called what class we got from Java 8 version, guys? Optional object. So am I clear how you should define the methods and code in the new way now? From Java 8 onwards, you should write the code in this way. From Java 8 version, we guys need to write answer in this way. Am I clear with you? Am I clear with you? Did you guys understood now? Okay. Now let us call this method. Understand this. Let us call this method. Which method I want to call? Get EMP by ID. What it returns? Optional. Optional. What optional object contains? A value. But definitely that is not a null. For sure. For sure it is not a null. Then tell me if I know that it is not a null, can I call the next operation on that? Yes or no? If I'm sure that there is a value, I can directly call without writing null check.
Yes.
If it is empty, I'll say don't do anything. Don't do anything. Able to follow me, right? We have methods for that. I'll tell you how to, have the methods and all. But the thing is what now? I no need of writing if conditions to check for nulls. And there is no chance of getting what exception now? What? Null pointer exceptions. That's why what's the new class available in Java 8? Optional. Now you should know what are the methods of optional. What are the different ways of creating optional object? Okay, the very popular way or mostly we are going to create whenever it is needed, we are going to create optional class object by calling of nullable method. What's the static method? Of nullable. One static method is there. We call this method and this method will create what object? Optional. Okay. So what is optional? Optional is an object which is a container object. It contains a value which is a not null. Which is a not null. It doesn't store null. Okay. Otherwise, it is going to be an empty object but does not store the null value. Suppose if I am passing wantedly null to store it, then it is going to contain empty object. It is going to contain what? Empty. For example, here E is null. Example, fetch it from DB, but in the DB it is not available. If this ID is not available in database, then you tell me what is going to be stored in E now? Let's say null. Then you tell me when I'm creating optional object, is null stored in this optional object or it is going to become an empty object now? Empty object, but doesn't store what? Null value. Null value. So there is no question of storing or holding a null value. It always holds a non-null value or it could be empty. Could be empty. Are you able to follow me? Right? Okay. Try to understand the purpose of optional class object and why it is given. Am I clear, guys? Now let us start. Now let us start having some discussion. Look at this. I'll add all the statements from the other doc, but first I want to explain them. Okay, look at this. Suppose if at all, at some point in case, if I want to create optional object, I can create optional object like this. Let's say, for example, empty object I want to create without having any data. I can add void opt is equal to void is a return type, v lowercase. Void is a return type. Void class is also there in Java, v capital letter. V capital is what? Class. V lowercase is what? Return type. Return type. Look at this. Optional dot empty. Okay. This is one way. This is one way of creating what object? This is one way of creating what object? Optional class object. Whenever I want to create one empty object, I do not want to store anything. Just one dummy or empty object I want to create. Then call which method? Empty method. Empty method. Sure. Observe it. Generally, mostly this type of empty objects are created in unit testing. While conducting unit testing, sometimes we need empty optional class object. So for that, we are going to call the method called what? Optional dot empty. Now, let's suppose we have something like this. Optional. Let's say of employee or of customer. Employee is a better way. That's why I'm taking employee. Optional dot of null. Sorry, not of null, of E, let's say. Means I want to create optional object to store or hold what? Employee. I want to create optional object to store what? Employee. Employee object. Now understand here. Suppose if E is null. Now at object creation time only. At this object creation time only, null pointer exception will be thrown. Guys, what exception will be thrown? NP. NP will be thrown. Okay, at what time only? At the object creation statement only, what exception will be thrown? Null point. When? If that value is null. Which method will do this? Off. Suppose if it is not null, suppose if the value is not null, then object is created. Which object is created? Optional object. Another way. Guys, let us say I am writing a statement like this. Optional of employee. OPT is equal to optional dot of nullable of E. So what is the difference between the off method and off nullable method? We want to understand what is the difference between what and what? Off and off nullable. Then what's the difference? The only difference is what? Suppose if this E is not null. Suppose if this E, the value is not null, then what object is created? Optional object is created. It holds what? Value. Who is a value now? Employee object. Suppose if E is null, empty. Then you tell me here, which exception will not be thrown? While creating the optional object, if I call off nullable method, then I will not get what exception? Null point exception. But if it is off, then I will get the null pointer exception. So at the time of construction of the optional object, you want to check whether it is containing null or not. The value is null or not null. Then you can call which method? Off. And you want to handle what exception there? Null pointer exception by keeping the code in try and catch blocks. No, if it is null, then what I want to do? I want to create empty object, but don't throw any exception. Then call which method? Off nullable. So then these are the different possibilities that we have for constructing an object of which class? Optional class. Okay. So what optional class object contains? What optional class object stores? It's a container object. It may contain the value or it may be empty, but it never store null. That's for sure. While constructing the object, if that value is null, then which exception will be thrown? Null pointer. When you call which method? Off. If you call off nullable, it won't throw exception, but it creates empty object, empty optional class object. So that's why mostly we prefer to call which method, guys? Off nullable. Off nullable. Am I clear with that? These are the different ways of creating an object for which class? Optional class. Now we have to consider what are the methods I should know if I want to work with the optional class object. Am I clear with that? But before that, I would like to add the statements from one of the available. by without typing those statements. There's the same example which I have explained to you. Then how do you write the null check? I have explained to you. Okay. And just now I have explained about what creating the optional class object, first way, second way, and third way. Next we'll discuss about methods, but first we want to complete how we guys can able to do that. We will see practically, because in the stream API, we are going to call the methods. Those methods returns optional class object. So we are going to get the practical of optional class object also when we are discussing the next code. Am I clear? Observe it. The same thing, whatever I have explained, just I have written as a statement. I just want to copy from the previous doc. Okay. So if an object has null value, and if you are calling a method on that object, then what exception will be thrown? Null pointer exception will be thrown. In a project, if we have more objects, so that most frequently occurred exception is null pointer exception, because our programming is object oriented programming. Everything is an object in our code, right? If you call one employee in the project, he is an object. If you call a product, it is also object. If you say order is also object. Book is an object. Student is an object, right? User is an object. Okay, policy is an object, right? Very good. So basically, our code contains all what? Objects. Different types of objects in our code. Am I right or not, right? Payment is an object. Inventory is an object. Am I right or not? Yes, everything is nothing but it's an object. So there are more objects in our code. So there is a chance of getting what exception? Null pointer exception. So to avoid it, or even at least we can reduce more by avoiding null checks. So to avoid the null pointer exception, you have to add what checks? Null checks. Example code I have given. This is without null check. This is example code with null check. The same code without null check and with null check. See here, I'm writing one null check here if condition is there. Yes. Then tell me this is called what check only? Null check. So if more null checks are added in the code, then the code becomes complicated. So to reduce the null checks and also to avoid what exception? Null pointer exception, Java 8 version has provided one class called what? Optional. If a method has to return an object, then first it has to store that object into optional class object, and then that method should return the optional class object. I'll tell you some code also here, some piece of code I will write. And of course, I'll also show you the code with the optional class object. Don't worry. I'll write 2 classes and I will show you the code, how it is going to work. We'll also discuss the methods over there. Am I clear with that? Okay, right? So optional class object is a container object. It can store another object inside it. Another object means another value. Who is the value here? It is also another object. Remember, optional class object can only store another object inside it. Here value is nothing but it is another. I can't create an optional class object to store integer value or a float value or a double value. See, if I have an integer value or if I have a byte value or a float value, will I get any null pointer exception? When there is a null pointer exception, null pointer exception will occur if that is an object. If it is a primitive value, let's say I have an integer, I have a string, I have a Boolean value, true, false. Will you get any null pointer exception? No, they are primitives. So my question is, can I create optional of int to store integer value? What's the meaning of optional of int actually?
We cannot create.
Okay,
Int has
yes.
its own
Actually,
default value.
This type parameter represents type of the value. Type of the value. Type of the value in optional is what? Int. Can I create like this? No. I want to create optional of, guys. Optional of. I want to write customer. Customer is another class. Can I? Yes.
We can create.
Because this is the type of the value. This is called angle bracket. This is called type parameter. Correct? You know, type parameter must be a class. Type parameter must be a class or an interface of Java. But tell me here, the type parameter, is it a class or is it an interface or is it a primitive data type? It is a primitive data type. Int is a primitive data type. So is it allowed or not allowed? Not allowed. We never use a primitive data type as a type parameter. It is not allowed. Type parameter should be a class or should be an interface, but it should not be the primitive data type. Now tell me finally, can we store, see, this is an optional object, remember. It is an optional object, OPT. It's a container object. Inside that, my integer value is 10. Can I store? Can I store like this? If 10 is an integer value, I cannot store. If this 10 is an integer object, I can store. Did you got my point? Then you tell me in such case, my optional declaration should be optional of integer, not int. Am I right or not? Because integer is a class type. Int is a primitive type. So then tell me, can we use any primitive type in type parameter? No. Can we use a class in type parameter? Yes. Now you tell me this 10 is a primitive value or integer object? This 10 is a primitive value in this OPT or it is an integer object in this OPT? It is an object. What object? Integer object. It's not stored like integer value. It's stored like integer object. Because this is a container object which can only contain another object. That's why my statement is what? Optional class object is a container object. It can store another object inside it, not primitive value. Another object. That object could be customer, employee, order, product, user, could be anything. Able to follow me? That's important. That's important.
Hello, sir.
Now,
Hello.
okay. These are the possible ways of creating the optional class object. First one is empty. Creates empty optional object. If you want to create an optional object, then you can create optional object to store this even. But if even is not null, then what is created? Optional object is created, and inside it, what is object stored? Even. If even is null, what exception will be thrown at the creation time only? Null point exception. Which tell me optional object can store null value or not? Can it store null? No, it can't store null. Next one is off nullable. Same, but if even is null, then what object is created? Empty optional object is created. That's the difference between off null and off nullable. There is a method called off and off nullable. They have a one small difference. This exception will be thrown at the time of creating the object only. Means object is successfully created or not created? Not created. Tell me if even is null. If even is null, then tell me this object is created or not created? Not created, because what will be thrown? Exception will be thrown. What exception? Null pointer exception. This exception will be thrown at the time of object creation only. Creation only. Yes. Yeah. Somebody is trying to ask me.
Sir, why the off method is means when we are using the off method in real time, sir, since optional class is introduced to avoid null points exception, why off method is introduced?
See, my requirement is I have some checkpoints. How can I debug my code is I can keep some checkpoints. So when I will write some checkpoint. So the checkpoint is what? At this place, my object is null or not null. Suppose if it is null, then optional class of method will throw null pointer exception. So I would like to handle that null pointer exception by keeping try and catch blocks. So the point of why off method is also given, because if I'm writing off nullable, it doesn't throw any exception like null pointer exception. I'm getting empty object. But how can I identify that because of this object is null, I got this type of response? Okay, so I also should know the reason, right? Cause. Suppose I'm writing off nullable of even. What happens if even is empty?
Empty object.
If even is null, empty object is created. Then tell me, I should know why I'm getting some alternate response if I'm expecting some other response because of E1 is null. But how can I check that? Because of E1 is null, I'm getting this output, or because of E2 is null, I'm getting this output. How can I check that? That's why both methods are given. What and what are given? Off and off nullable. Both methods are given. When I'm calling off method, if E1 is null, then what? At object creation only, what will be thrown? Null pointer exception. Means in a method where I'm writing this kind of optional object creation statement, I'll keep this line in inside what and what blocks? Try and catch blocks. And so that at that point only, I can find out where is the object created and where is that really exception got occurred. I can find out the exact place where this object has got null. If I'm calling off nullable, it doesn't throw any exception, but I'm getting result empty, then I should go back from where it is empty created, and then I should go back to that code. There I can find out, oh, because of this object, it is empty. Now this is the reason why I got this empty. Are you able to follow me now?
Yes, sir.
So there is some kind of delay in the debugging process. So sometimes we need such type of requirements also. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Good. Let's go back. We would like to okay. Somebody's replied already. Yeah. I have already shown in the last session, comparable, comparator. They contains what methods? Abstract method.
Abstract method.
They also contain what method? Default method. They also contains what? Static method. Better to refer the documentation. Of comparator. Okay, right. In the last session, I have explained when should I write a default method and when should I write static method. Yes. Guys, now we should understand about some of the key methods and important methods of the optional class. Look at this. Let us write a code, then from that code we'll understand. Let us write some code, and from that code we'll understand. Somewhere I'm just going to create one small code. Everybody can see this. Then from there, we will derive all the methods that we need from optional. So that we can enter into the next topic. Okay. Observe here. Guys, look at this. I am creating one simple code called optional demo. Okay, there is some package, com example, where I have employee. I'll add some code in employee, don't worry. You guys can see, I just want to add only name, ID and name, that's it. I don't want anything. Int ID, int name, string name, sorry. ID and name are the properties of employee. These are the fields in employee, and we can define the respective setter, getters. Sure. Okay, let us define the respective setters and getters. Right, okay. And just I want display the employee by overriding the toString method. So there is one class with us. The class name is employee, which contains only two fields for an employee, what and what, ID and name, and with respect to setters and getters. And I'm ready with my employee. I want to go to my package. I'm keeping everything in one package. Otherwise, you can add two sub packages to write the two different classes. That's up to you. Let me create. Okay, let me create a new package. Let's say com.example.controller. There is another package com.example.service. Look at this. There are two more packages are there. One is controller, next one is service. I want to create one new. Then I want to define one class. Let's start having a class here. Let's say employee service. Now you guys can see that there is a class available. What is the class we have created? Employee service. And for which, observe it. I'm creating a method public. Understand, please. Okay, public with return type. Let's consider, because we are not going to work with employee, we are going to work with optional class object. That's why, what's the return type I'm using? Optional of employee, right? Get EMP by ID. Get EMP or fetch EMP by ID. There is a method I'm creating with a parameter of ID. I'm manually writing the code. You guys can see this because optional is a class from which package? Java.util. That's why we need to have what statement over there? Import statement. Look at the code here. If I'm manual writing, because I'm not connecting to the database and all these things. If ID equals to 101, if ID is equal to 101, I can write in one line, but I do not want to make more complex. I will write like this now. Create an employee object. Set ID 101. Set name as John. Return optional dot off, otherwise off nullable, whatever it is, off nullable of E. If ID is equal to what? 10. If the given parameter ID is equal to 101, return this. Let's add else if ID is equal to, for example, given ID is equal to 102. Then same code. Just only I need to change the ID and name. ID is what? 102. Name is Alan. What's the name here? Alan. So this is if and else. If ID is equal to 101, do this. If ID is equal to 102, do this. Else. Just I want to show you. Employee E is equal to null. Return optional dot off nullable of E. Okay. So tell me what's the method I have completed? Fetch EMP by ID. This is my service class. I'm going to one more class I'm creating in the controller package. Employee controller. I'm creating just two classes like that. Employee controller. And here I'm directly manually creating employee service. Manually creating. Okay, it is not any code of the Spring so that I can use annotations and nothing I can't do. It's a simple core Java code. Simple Java code. Okay. I'm just directly creating the service. Otherwise, in the constructor also I can create. It's not a problem, whatever it is. Okay. Directly I'm creating, no issue. Next, let us go to, okay, let's go to a method over here. Okay. Let's say public void could be something like show or whatever. Print EMP. Something print EMP of int ID. It has to call this method. Which method? Fetch EMP by ID. It returns what object? Optional class object. Our intention is what? Why we are writing this code? We want to just see the difference between off method and off nullable. And also we want to see what are the different methods available in optional class to read the data. Okay, observe it. Tell me which method I want to call here. Which method of the service class I want to call from this method of controller class? I want to call the fetch EMP by ID method. Okay, I will call that method service dot. What's the method I want to call? Fetch EMP by ID, which returns me what object? Optional. So optional of employee type parameter, let's say E equals to so-and-so method I'm calling. So far, did you guys understood the code as of now? Service dot, which method I'm calling? Fetch EMP by ID. And this method is a method of which class? Employee service. And I'm calling it from which class? Employee controller. Now, this method returns me object of what class? Option. Now, I want to know what are the various methods of optional class so that I can able to read the data from the object. You know, optional object contains what? It's a container object. What it contains? Another object that is a value. Am I right or not? Yes. Now, observe here. If. Now, my question is, how can I know that? Is it an empty object or there is a value inside it? Are you able to get my point? See, what could be there in this OPT? What could be there in OPT? OPT is what object, first of all? It is an optional class object. What can be there in that container? It's a container. Inside the container, what is there? Employee
Object will be there or null will be there.
Or it could be empty. But how to check whether in that container means it's a box. Inside the container, the product is there or not? Okay, right? So I have to call a method here. Are you able to get my point or not? Yes. Okay. There is a box. You ordered for a mobile. That mobile is delivered within a box. Right? That box is called what? Container. What are the actual data? Mobile. Mobile is there within box. That box is called container. Without opening that box, just to know a first test, how do you check whether really mobile is there inside it or not? Without opening the box. Shake it. Shake the box. If there is at least some sound generated, yes, it's there. At least some percentage we can confirm. That's a primary check. Shake the box. Similarly, what is OPT? OPT is the optional class object. It's a container object. Now, how can I check whether there is something inside it or nothing is there? How can I shake it? That's what my point, right? There is a method available called is present. What's the method? Now I'm talking about methods only now. Right. OPT dot is present. Are you able to get my point? OPT dot what? Is present. If it is present, is present means there is something. Yes. I have shaked it. Yes, something is there. Sound is coming. Then open it and check it. Get the item. Correct? Then tell me, what should I do? What should I do? Okay. Right. Okay. You have purchased one Coke tin. Of course, we can identify with the weight also. I mean, don't tell me, sir. In this way also we can find out. I also know. Just for example, you purchase a Coke tin. Right. Okay. Before you are going to open it and drink it, first you are going to what? Shake well before use. Correct? Okay. Right. Very good. So we can find something, right? Yes. So if OPT dot is present, yes, it is there. True. Then get it. What I want to get? I want to get the value. What type of value is there? What's the type of the value? Employee. Employee. EMP or something equals to OPT dot get. Two methods have covered here, but the two methods of optional class have covered here. Is present is one method and next one is get. There is a method called is present. If a value is present, returns true. Otherwise, false. Who is going to be the value? Who is going to be the value? Is it a primitive value? No, it's an object. It's an object of what type? Of
Employee type.
Employee type. Object is optional object. What type of value is there inside? Employee type. And so how can I get it? How can I read it? By calling get method. By calling which method? Get method. So please try to understand this. This is the process you have to follow to read the value from the optional object. There are two methods I have covered. One method is called what? Is present. Next method is called what? Get. Get. Then display it. Then what? Display it. Are you able to follow me, right? Display it. Try to understand the point clearly. Display it. Okay. This is controller. I'll show you all the things. First, let me create an object for employee controller to test this code from main. So I'll create main also in another package. One new package I'm creating for main. New class I'm creating. Main class with main method. Now create controller class object. How can you create? What is your class name? Employee controller. Controller equal to new employee controller. Just my class name is like that. Then I have to call the method. Which method of employee control I want to call? Print EMP. What's the method name? Print EMP. I should pass some number. ID as a number. Okay, let me call controller dot print EMP of 101. Let's say first we'll test with 101. Understand this. Run this code. We got the employee with ID 101 and name John. Yes. If I pass 102, Ellen. If I pass other number 103, 4, 5, something like that. Empty. What is it? Empty. You can see my console. I'm not getting any answer. I'm not getting any exception also, right? Suppose if this is the case, it is very dangerous, right? If you are not getting output or response, at least you should get some exception. We can see the root cause. But now we are not getting any output. At the same time, we are not getting any exception also. That's why off method is also given. You got my point? Okay. Let's see.
Yes, sir.
Same code. Instead of calling off nullable, let me call off method. Difference off. Now let us run the same code with 103. I got the exception and stack. Sometimes this stack trace is also important for us to debug. So what's the difference between off and off nullable? Off throws which exception? Null pointer exception while creating the object. There is a method called fetch EMP by ID. At line number 22, the exception was originated. Okay, at the time of creating the exception, optional class object. So we got the difference. Other methods we want to call. Now I want to use only off nullable, but I want to explain the other things.
So, sir, why they have
There are
introduced
methods.
this of nullable? Like, if it is not throwing any exception, what is the use of this method then?
Sorry.
Sir, why they have introduced this of nullable? If it is not throwing any exception, we'll not come to know that
No,
what is the
you have to
problem in
read
our program.
manual. You have to write manual code. Else, you go back. Okay, directly don't think like that. Okay, you should also think in other possible way. If it is present, do this. Else, throw new. Do you know this code? You can also do, na? Right? This code you have to add. You got my point? Good. You should also think in other way. Yeah. Correct. Now, there are two methods I've explained. What's the one method? What's the one method? Is present. Next method is get.
Get method.
See, after getting value from optional object, what is my next step I want to do? Simply, I want to display. This is a task I want to do, right? What I want display? I want display the employee, which contains the data, right? Yes. Okay. First, what method you are calling? Is present. Then you are calling get method. And suppose you don't want to do any else part. Else part means what? If, for example, it is empty, you want to do some other logic. If it is not there, else, then add new object into the database. That is else block, right? Are you getting my point or not? If this ID is there, get it. If not there, create it. Means where should I write the create logic? Else. You got my point? Write the creation logic. If this ID 101 is there, get it. If not there, create it. Then where should I do the logic for creation? The else block. Am I right? But my requirement is, if it is there, you get it. If it is not there, nothing to do. If available, take it. If not available, sit calm. Are you getting my point? Are you getting my point? Okay. Requirement is, if that is the case, then I should go for okay. If this object contains something, do work. Do the action. If nothing is there, don't do anything. For that, there is a method available called if present. What is that? Previous method is what? Is present. This is called what? If present. But if present method accepts consumer object. What is that? I'll tell you. Consumer is a functional interface. Consumer is a what type of interface? Functional interface. It is a functional interface. Function interface means, guys, it is going to contain how many abstract methods? One abstract method. Then one abstract method name is accept. Okay. Consumer is a function interface. It has a single abstract method and name of the method is what? Accept. Now tell me. As we discussed already about function interface in the last class, about lambda expressions and all. If any method has a functional interface as parameter. If a method has a parameter of type function interface, then we can directly pass lambda expression to the method. What we can pass? Lambda expression to the method. Otherwise, you can do store this expression into one reference variable and pass the variable. But I told in the last class when to store this lambda expression in a reference variable. If you want to reuse it. Otherwise, you can directly pass. So tell me, if I want to write lambda expression, what should I know? I told what consumer. Who is that consumer? Functional interface. It has how many abstract methods? Who is that one abstract method? Accept. Tell me, how do you write the lambda expression now? This information is not enough. What information is mandatory to start writing the lambda expression? What information is mandatory for me?
Parameter and the return type.
Writing lambda expression.
How many
The
parameters?
name is not much important for me. But what is important for me? Parameters.
Parameter, return type.
Parameters
And the
is
return
important for
type.
me. Return type also important for me. Am I clear? Yes.
Yes.
Good.
What should I do? I cannot make a decision. Should I
Now, this
use
is my-
this or should I write an email?
This is my, guys, this is my consumer. You can see this is my functional interface. Finally opened. So this is consumer. It is what interface? Functional interface. You can see the annotation declared here. What is it? Functional interface. It has only one abstract method. What's the abstract method name? Accept. With return type what? Void. How many parameters it has? One parameter. How many? One. A type parameter. Any type. Parameter of any type. So now, if I want to start writing the lambda expression, then tell me, if I want to pass it directly, I should start with the first parameters only, na? How many parameters are there? One. If there is a single parameter, then tell me parenthesis for the lambda expression, parameters, is it mandatory or optional? Optional. When it is mandatory?
More than 2.
If there is a single, if there is more than one parameter, or 0 parameters, then parenthesis is mandatory. But for single parameter, optional. Tell me, it has how many parameters right now? 1. 1 means parenthesis is optional. Okay. What's the name of the parameter here? Name of the parameter, small t. Type of the parameter, capital T. Correct? But name of the parameter, small t. Then tell me, I must use t only here as a parameter. I told in the previous, don't think about
Yeah, used it.
parameter name. Parameter name can be same or could be different.
Anything.
I'm writing E in place of T. Why not? Arrow
Can use
token.
anything.
Arrow token. Now what I want to do with this parameter? Return type is what? Void. With this parameter, I can do many things. Okay, I can set a new name, I can set new salary, I can set new employee ID. I can do many things. Am I right or not? But remember, what is the return type of the accept method? Void.
Void.
Void means the body of this expression should not return any value. It should not return any value. I have a question to you. If I call a setter method, will it return the value?
No.
Suppose if I'm saying e dot set sal, I think I don't have set sal, but name is there, right? Set name of king, K-I-N-G. Tell me set method, setter method. Setter method return any value? What is the return type of setter? Void. Void. Getter method return type is data type of the variable. If the variable is a string, return type is also string. If variable is integer, return type is also integer. But if if it is a setter method, void. Then tell me, is it matching with the return type or not? Tell me what action I want to do on this employee. I want to change the name. What's the action? Change the name from previous name to king. Otherwise, another action could be any other action. Let's say the other action I want to do is, look at this. Other action what I want to do is arrow, start. Start means what? I wanted multiple lines of code. I want, right? Multiple lines of code. First, get the salary. Oh, sorry. This guy doesn't have any salary, right? Only name is there. Huh? Okay, no problem. Get the name. Get the name. Understand? 2 uppercase. What is that? 2 uppercase. Then set the name again. Did you understand now? What I'm doing in the logic? Do you know what I'm doing in the logic? Get the previous name, convert it into uppercase and set it back. Now you tell me, suppose if employee name is John, only J letter capital. After execution of this code, J-O-H and John will be in
Capital letter.
J only in capital. Why not J-O-H and capital? Only J capital again. Same name, no change. Now it is correct. Yes, sir. Now why it is correct now? Because strings are immutable objects. Strings are immutable objects. You learned in string class, no? Leave about that. Okay, leave about that. But tell me here, my body of this lambda expression has a single statement or multiple statements? Multiple. If there are multiple statements, then I should start curly braces to write the multiple statements, block of statements. Correct? Okay. Suppose my statement is only one. I don't want to do all these things. I simply want to display the employee. Then what can I write?
Single line.
System dot out dot println of E. Tell me which method I'm calling? If present. If present method, what it will do? It will execute the given action if a value is present. Where? In the OPT. If OPT has a value, if present, then execute the given action on the value. Otherwise, don't do anything. Then tell me which method I should call. If there is a value in OPT, do this. Otherwise, don't do anything. Which method I should call? If present. So basic thing is what? The above comment and the below one, both are same. Both are same. Both are same. But here I'm calling first one method called what? Is present, to check value is present or not. If yes, how can you read the value? By calling get. Two methods I'm doing. But here what? A shortcut method is what? If present. So it depends on requirement. You can call and you can do the work. Okay. But here advantage of is present is what? I can also write else block. What I can write? Else block. But for if present, can I write in else block? No. Are you able to follow me? Very good. Understand here. If present, do this. I'm trying to call dot. What I'm trying to do? Dot. Dot. I'm trying to put the dot here. Generally, when I put the dot, I should get the next operations, na? Am I getting any other operation? No. I'm not getting any operation. Semicolon I'm putting here. Normally, when you call first method, that first method returns something. Then we can call second method on that first method. This is called chaining of the methods, right? Like our previous code, first get continent we called. It returns continent. That's why we are calling get country. Country is returning country. That's why we are calling state. If it is void, suppose get continent method returns void. Can I call the next method get country? No. The previous method returns void. Next method cannot be called on that. Chaining is not possible. Chaining will end there. Are you able to follow me? Understand the point clearly. So anyhow, tell me, three methods I've covered here. What are the three methods, guys? One is present. Next one is get. Next one is if present. Now in optional, when I say OPT dot, we have other methods also. How can I directly check whether is it empty or not? What's the method name?
Is empty.
Is that? Is empty. Please try to understand now. I have a method called what? If present. I have another method called if present or else. But or else must be a runnable action. If present or else. Or else method takes two parameters. First one is action. The action to be performed if the value is present. And second one is empty action. The empty based action to be performed if no value is present. There is a method called if present or else. You have the method called as get. These flat map, filter, these things will come in streams. I'll explain that. Okay, right? Is empty is a method. Is present is a method. Okay, you have one method called, the bottom will get or else. What is it? Or else get, or else throw. I'm going to explain all these methods. Don't worry. These are the some of the remaining methods like toString method, wait method, notify method, notify all method. These are from object class. Equals method, hash code method. These methods are coming from which class? Object class. So now, let me show you some of the methods with the code. So far, what are the methods I've explained you? Is present method, get method, if present method. If present method. Just have written something to understand it. There is a method called what? Or else. If this optional contains value, returns the value. If it is empty, then returns another value. Some dummy value or default value, better word, instead of using dummy value. Default value. If there is value, return it. If there is value, then return it. Otherwise, return some default value. Optional object contains what, guys? Value, right? Optional object is a container object. Na? What is there inside? object, value, that is a value. If a value is there, return me. If not there, return some other value. That is a default value. What value? Default value. Default value. Are you able to follow me? Yes? Okay. If, for example, there is a customer, for example, if there is a customer, if this customer has a country, return that country. If that customer has no country value, return by default as India. Now you tell me, if that customer is not configured with any country name, then tell me what's the default country name I want to get? India. What's the method to achieve the same thing here? Or else. So to understand this, I've given an example. First, tell me, line 1 creates what object, guys? Optional. But here, am I creating optional class for employee or customer or for a string object? String object. See, I'm calling opt.orelse by world. Tell me, is it opt empty? Is this opt is empty or is it containing another value? It contains value. What value? String. What's the string? Hello world. Then tell me, if I call or else by world, output will be hello world or by world? Hello world.
Hello world, sir.
Right? Now look at this. Second example. This time my opt empty. No value. Then tell me for it or else by world. What's the output now? Why? Because it is empty. Means what? If there is a value, give me back. If this opt has no value, give me default value. So where can I configure the default value? By using or else method. So or else method basically used to configure the default value. If that value not there, then return the default value. That's what the meaning of or else. We have or else throw.
We can use or else, sir. In the if present also.
Sorry?
Can you use the or else? In the if present also, can you use the or else, sir? The if present opt dot.
If present already checks what?
Whether it is there or
Whether
not.
value is present or not. True means go inside, get it and do the work.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Right? Else block. Go to what block? Else block. In else block, you can call or else.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Next one is what? Or else throw. Or else throw. Okay. If the optional contains a value, return the value. If it is empty, then throw what exception? No such element exception. Same examples, but the first example output will be hello world because value is there. But in the second example, it is what type of option object here? Empty. That's why. Okay, that's why we got what type of exception? No such element exception. No such element exception, we got it. Okay, so there is a method available called or else throw. There is a method available called or else. Okay, or else. If present or else, is present, get. These are all the methods of which class? Optional class. So use this as a base and try to learn the remaining methods list, whatever you are getting over here. Except filter, flat map, stream. These are the methods we are going to look into in the next tomorrow while working with the streams API. We'll start with the stream API, right? I have covered which method here? Get method. Equals hash code that you know. What's the method I've covered here? If present. What's the new point you learned here? There is a parameter. Parameter is what type? Consumer. Consumer is what? Functional interface. There are, try to remember, there are some functional interfaces, everybody has to remember them. In that, one of the interface name is what? Consumer. The next one that everybody has to remember, predicate. Guys, look at this. Predicate. The next one that everybody has to remember, function. Function. The next one everybody has to remember, supplier. I will explain when you are working with the Stream API, guys. Supplier. At least you remember 4 first. What are the 4? Consumer. This is called predicate. Next one is called function, F capital letter. Next one is called what? Supplier. Supplier. What are these 4? Functional interfaces. Tell me, please tell me my 4 names again, whatever the 4 names I'm asking you. Yes, consumer, predicate, function, and supplier. If you know them, it will be easy for streams operations. While we're discussing about stream operations, we will get different variations. For example, function is there, right? We have int function, double function, float function, like that different function interfaces are there, right? For example, if predicate is there, then we have something called as by predicate, by consumer, by supplier. Okay, so if you know these basics, these 4, then on top of them, whatever the other function interfaces constructed, we can understand them easily. 4 names important, okay? I'll tell you tomorrow what consumer, when should you use? Predicate, when should I use? Supplier, when should I use? Next function, when should I use? We'll take some examples and use cases as well. I'll explain you. But first of all, I want to show you predicate is a what type of interface? Functional interface. And tell me what is the only one abstract method it has? Test. What is return type? Boolean. What is important for us to construct the lambda? Expression. Parameters and return type. How many parameters it has? 1 parameter. What is the return type? Boolean. Very good. These you must know. Function. See the abstract method. Guys, what's the method name? Apply. How many parameters it has? 1 parameter. It is 1 parameter, no comma, right? 1 parameter. What is the return type? R. R means any type. R means any type. Any type. Takes a parameter of type T, returns a result of type R. Result means R. Type means T. This is what generics, the special symbols used. T for type, E for element, K for key, V for value. When you're creating map objects, K comma V we read, right? Key comma value. R for result. Yes. Guys, last one, supplier. It has only one abstract method called get. How many parameters? 0. 0 parameters. But what's the return type? T. It returns an object of any type. Of a type. Type is T. Returns object of type T. Am I clear with that? Right. So tell me once again, what are the 4 interfaces, guys, you must have to remember? Consumer, predicate, function, supplier. Can you tell me what is the abstract method of consumer? Accept. Very good. Accept.
Accept.
Parameters? 1. Return type? Void. Parameter important, return type important. Second one, let's say predicate. Just now we saw. What's abstract method name? Test. Parameters? 1. Return type? Boolean. Boolean. Test is Boolean. Na? Next one, function. What's the abstract method name? Apply. Parameter? 1 of type T. Returns result of type R. Okay. The symbolic meaning is what? It can take a type of parameter, can return another type of result. That's what the meaning of R and T. I'll explain you. Next one. Supplier. Method is get. Parameters are 0. Return type is T. These are 4 important functional interfaces. You know others. Comparator. Comparator is what? Functional interface. Okay, comparator. Comparable. Function interface. Runnable. Function interface, because it contains only single abstract method called run. You know, runnable, comparator, comparable. You add these 4 also, at least 7, 8 function interfaces names you have to remember. Am I clear with that? So I'll try to add those methods, and once tomorrow streams we start. So once the streams introduction, some stream operations after completion, then again, I will share the notes for others. And for you guys who are from 87 or 88 batch, you will be getting through your portal access. Okay, na? So today we are done for here and up to this, and tomorrow is another most important class that is called streams. We have to start writing stream API. Stream API.
So
Okay.
from where we can access these nodes?
Sorry.
From where we can access these nodes?
Notes I have shared already in the last session. I think, have you attended the last session on Saturday?
No, sir.
No, that's why you have. Again, I'll share it tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Again, I'll
Sir-
share in the chat box. From here only, you are going to download.
Okay, sir.
In
Thank
the
you.
chat box, I will share and you can download. Okay.
Okay. thank you.
And will you upload this video in YouTube?
I think currently we are not uploading. First session is uploaded, but I don't know the last 2 sessions and this session, is it uploaded or not? Friday, Saturday, and this month. This
Not
Monday,
uploaded.
obviously not yet, but Friday and Saturday is upload or not, I will check.
Sir, on